bring him to you. We've been talking about Ron for years, literally on this show, but I've been talking to Ron just for a little bit, and I got to tell you, he is the coolest guy in the whole world, and I can't wait to bring him to you guys. I think you're going to really enjoy. He's fantastic. He's an actor. He's a writer. He's a comedian. He is a podcaster. He's a lover of animals. He's a comic writer. He is, as far as his comic strip goes, he is. And there's so many more things that this man has going on in his life right now, and I'm not going to name them all right now because we're going to get into a lot of it. But there's some things that I know are very important to Ron, and I want to go ahead and I'm going to ask him some of some of the things that I think are the most important for him to talk about at the beginning of the show. So let's start. Instead of talking about you at first, Ron, and we're going to get into that, municipal broadband, go.
Sure. So municipal broadband, for anyone that may not be hip to that term, means city-owned internet. And the reason it's really important to me, I've been paying a lot of attention to digital rights, pretty much my entire adult life. And net neutrality is a really important issue to me. What that is it just assures a free and open internet. It makes sure that the internet flows like flowing water, or like a phone call, and is treated like a utility. So this show doesn't load any faster than a CNN video, and we all have the level playing field that is the internet, at least as much as it can be. That protection went away in 2017 with Trump's FCC, and that's actually, we've had net neutrality since the advent of the internet. A lot of people, sorry, I'm having a little issue with my phone here. I'm using like a phone stand, so I'm just on my phone, so I'm kind of off the grid right now, and it's meant to be the other way, but whenever I do it that way, it comes in sideways. So I'm going to have to like refinagle it.
No problem. No problem.
But yeah, so municipal broadband really puts the internet back in the hands of we the people, because what it does is your internet is owned by your city, so you treat it just as you would treat a garbage bill or something like that. And the way I like to explain it to people, hey, look, whether you're the poorest resident or the mayor, we all want our porn to load as fast as possible. So you're going to get, so you're going to get good internet. And there's actually been a study that was done by Harvard that indicated that, because there is municipal broadband going on in the country, it exists already. Every city that's tried it, they offer better internet at a better price than the big cable duopolies do, because they are exactly that. The way internet was, rolled out in this country was all these big cable companies basically formed an organized duopoly, kind of mafia-esque, where they're like, hey, don't go on my territory, I won't go on yours. And they just wanted to price gouge people, so they don't build as quality of a product as they could, because they just want to keep raising the prices. If an area doesn't seem like they'll make enough profit to their liking, they just don't go there. So cities are taking it in their own hands, and I think that needs to happen on a mass level. We need to have municipal broadband everywhere in the country, because that kind of puts the net neutrality battle to rest once and for all.
I totally agree with you on that, and I've been a victim because I live out in the mountains, so I understand how important it is for people to have access to the internet, and how it has really changed and evolved over time. I mean, 20 years ago, or maybe when the internet first started and people were like, access, and people were like, yeah, if you need it, you need it. But now it's just become a thing that's saving lives, and you just got to take it a lot more seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a utility in our lives. And I think, that's one of the many things this pandemic has shown us, is how essential the internet is in our lives. I mean, for kids that are in school, the ones that don't have access to decent internet are at a huge disadvantage right now to the ones that do. So, it is a utility, and people make it out like, oh, we'll never lose the internet. The internet as we know it will always stay as it is. And that's just, back in 1995, I don't think anyone saw what happened to radio happening. I don't think anyone would have predicted that in 1995. But
Right.
The next year, the Telecommunications Act in 1996 happened, and radio as we know it completely went away. Similar things happened in television. So this whole idea that we can't lose a medium is just historically false. So we could very well live in a world where we tell like the next generations what it used to be like when you could have your own podcast or your own video streaming show, because that becomes a thing of the past.
Right.
And they're already preparing for that world. So, we got to do what we can to prevent that from happening.
Your grandpa and I used to stream porn all day. We didn't get a charge or have to pay a bill. Now we have to pay per second.
Right?
When I heard you,
exactly.
I heard you talking about this, and I heard you saying in an interview that when you look at the big companies that are actually in support of this, and it's crazy when you think about it, because they benefit from neutrality. All of them do. And just have a few people that can just say, yeah, we're gonna dominate this format. Nobody else is going to be able to get into it. It's so important. And I'm using satellite right now. And for me, my satellite internet is good. It allows me to do what I'm doing right now. And a lot of people don't realize that. They don't realize you can actually live stream from satellite. And that's good. But when I went to try to get broadband to my home, the company wanted to charge me $164,000 to run 1 mile of cable down my road. And that was for about 20 homes back here. And they wouldn't do it. They wanted me to pay for the cable.
Wow. They wanted you to pay for the cable, and then they would collect the monthlies.
Yes.
That's insane.
Yep.
But that's what they do. Like, they'll just refuse to build there. I mean, I had a condo in Tennessee once, and, it was like a new development, like it was a newly built development, and our cable options were not good. It was basically Comcast or bust, because they were the only one that was willing to build in that complex, because they basically had an agreement with AT&T. Hey, we're going to go there, so you don't go there. So we were paying out the nose for, the internet wasn't bad, but we were paying out the nose for it. And, I guess you're in like a rural area, and I know that in the UK, they did this thing where a bunch of farmers, and this was like as a result of the pandemic, a bunch of farmers just, they started laying their own cable with their tractors. And they just built this like great fiber internet infrastructure for themselves. And I think the upkeep, they all pay like €25 a month or £25 a month. And they have this fantastic internet now. So it can be done.
Right.
And it can be done on any level. I talk about municipal broadband a good bit. People will email me. They're like, what about my town? It only has like 2,000 people in it. I'm like, hey, Charlemont, Massachusetts has 7,000 people. They just got it. So it doesn't matter how big or small your city is. Any city of any size can do it if they just really want to do it. And there's institutions out there that will come and help assess your situation so that you get the best structure that's meant for your area. Maybe
right.
If you have a lot of hills, that's a factor. If you have a lot of mountains,
Right.
that's a factor. If you're flat, you get the idea.
So you guys, and when you get an opportunity, I want you to check out Ron Placone. And right now, while we're early in this interview, Ron, I want you to go ahead and I want to promote everything that you're doing, every show that you're on, and everything that you want them to know about. So go ahead and do it right now, please.
Sure. Well, follow me on Twitter at Ron Placone. That's my Twitter. That's the best way to find me. RonPlacone.com is my website. I do a show called Get Your News On with Ron. I'm actually off the grid right now, so I'm taking a little break from that. But I
Get your news on with Ron so you know what's going on. I love that show. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Thank you, man.
I'm sorry, man. I broke out into song. I'm sorry.
I appreciate it. Thank you. That proves it's working, that theme song.
It is working.
Some people hate it, so
I love it.
But yeah, youtube.com/Ron Placone. That's where you can find Get Your News On with Ron. And then you can catch me on the Jimmy Dore Show. You can catch me with Graham Elwood, the political vigilante. Once the world goes back to normal, hopefully we'll start touring again. I
Yes,
very much.
yes.
And the world's not going to go back to normal per se. It's going to be a new normal, and I just hope it's a better one. But hopefully we'll be back on tour soon. But in the meantime, you can check me out online, ronplacone.com, at Ron Placone on Twitter. And there you can also find my webcomic that I do about my cat Lucy, called Lucy and Ron.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of my wheelhouse.
Good. So this is a couple things that came up when you were saying all that. One thing is Graham came on recently. I had Graham on, and before he came on, he came into the Zoom room, and you know how you're in the lobby and then you're getting ready, and I brought him in, but his camera was off, but I could hear his mic, and I could hear him getting ready, like brushing his hair or whatever, and I was like getting all excited, and I got so nervous waiting for him to come on that I started singing your theme song. I sang all the way through it, and as soon as I said today, he turned on his camera. I was like, Graham, it like calmed me down singing your song. And that is true, man. I'm not making that up. I really sang the song. Graham probably heard me singing it. You can ask him. Did that guy really sing my song? All right, so
well, I'm glad it helped, man. I'm glad to hear it.
I've got some important questions that everybody's going to want to know, and I just want to say this. If there's one thing I can't stand about these interviews that I see all over the place, it's when you get all of the good stuff at the end and no one knows. A lot of people will turn that interview off, and I like to promote these people early on so everybody knows where to find them. So now you guys all know where Ronnie is. Go look him up. Go find him. And I watch him all the time, and he talks back to you, and it's fun. Oh, and his Zoom is amazing. You've got to go into the Zoom and enjoy that on Friday nights at 7 p.m. with Graham. It is unreal. It's a party. So what comedians...
Well, it's on Saturdays, and it's not every Saturday.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was Friday night. I've been telling everybody Friday night. It's Saturdays, and it's not every Saturday.
No,
okay.
we usually do it Saturday. It's hard, man. During this
pandemic,
it's like, who keeps, I forget what day it is.
No, I'm glad I made the mistake. I'm so glad I made the mistake because now it's cemented in my mind. It's and everybody else's too. So, perfect.
Well, yeah, we usually do it Saturdays, and but we always announce it ahead of time on Twitter when we're doing it. And once I get back to California, we'll probably do another one soon. So, yeah, okay. I'm glad you enjoy those. They're a lot of fun. It's all we got right now because we don't have live stand up, so it's the closest we got at the moment.
It's just as good in my opinion. I mean, maybe not for you, but for an audience member to be able to type something while you're doing your stand up and literally see what they're saying. It's thrilling. It's thrilling for the audience.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. I mean, it's not quite the same as being there live. It's kind of like, I guess the most like blunt way to put it, it's like masturbation versus sex, basically. But it's something when there's nothing. Like we can't be on tour right now. We can't perform live, so it's the next best thing. Right. And either way you do it, you still get off. So that's true. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know how much time you've got, Ron, so I've got a ton of questions. I want to try to get through them. So, you ready?
Fire away.
You ready for ready to walk through what do they call that when you get beaten? You got to walk through all these people and they're beating on you as you walk through what is that? A gauntlet. Yes, the gauntlet. You're going to walk through it's the garden gauntlet. Let's go.
I like it.
What comedians influenced you early on and now currently?
Well, I was a huge Carlin fan growing up. Still am. I got to see his record.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you right there. Now, as a child, you weren't watching Carlin when you were 7, 8, 9 years old, right? I mean, who was the first funny people? Yeah, go ahead.
My first exposure was, I was pretty young. I want to say I was like 12 or 13. And it was actually one of my friends had one of his books.
Wow.
And I think it was,
12 or 13 years old listening to Carlin, man. What a head start you had.
Yeah, well, and it was one of those things where like we were reading parts of it, and I think we probably only understood about half of it,
Sure.
I mean, I don't remember. I don't remember which book it was. I probably own the book now.
At that age, I was listening.
I didn't know which one it was.
At that age, I was listening to Steve Martin, and I was understanding all of it. I had the album.
Man. That's awesome. Yeah,
that's such a lower level of comedy.
Really got into.
I know, right? It's stupid comedy.
I never really got into him. But I love this book. That book he wrote on stand-up. I really love that book. I think my dad bought that book for me.
I didn't know about that.
Like, really great
this is the first time I'm hearing about it. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Oh, you should read it. It's I want to say it's called Born Standing Up or something like that. I think like stand-up's in the title somewhere. But yeah, it came out. When was it? It would have been like maybe 2009-ish, around there. It was like shortly, I think it was around when Carlin died. But yeah, and at the time I was a very new comedian and stuff. So yeah, that was a really, really good book.
Wow, man, I will check that out. Okay, so you had Carlin at a very early age, and that must have had that just must have twisted your brain at such a young age.
Yeah, I got really into Carlin, and I didn't really get into comedy, until like a little later. Like it was after college. I didn't get into comedy until I started doing it. Like I was a big music guy. I mean,
right. So
like, stop
right there. That's good. We'll go back to comedy. You were a host of a radio show in college called.
Yeah, I had.
What was the name of the show? I've got it somewhere around here.
So, well, I
Bohemian was it the Indie Bohemians?
Oh, that was after college. That was
okay.
I used to live in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And we had like a small, well, it's still around. It's called Radio Free Nashville, and they basically acquired a second signal that like made them citywide, and they still have it. So we were trying to really build up like a lefty morning show to kind of be like the alternative to all the other stuff on the dial, which this is, even though Nashville's a pretty, like a pretty forward-thinking town, you're still in Tennessee. So a lot of the radio is just like, right-wing syndicated Fox News stuff. Like that's pretty much the only thing on the dial. So we were trying to be like the alternative to that. We were trying to be like the lefty alternative in town. So we tried to build this like lefty morning show, and it didn't really catch on the way we wanted it to. I think because it's like, it was really a lot of work to build it from scratch, and there were so many delays in the signal getting as good as it needed to be for it to grow, and all this other stuff. But I did get to interview some pretty cool people when I did that show. I mean, I got to interview some of my favorite musicians, and who? So I look back at it fondly.
Who? And what kind of experiences did you have?
I got to interview Billy Bragg, which was really cool for me. I occasionally I'll strum a Billy Bragg tune or two, and I always like to say this song was written by a ginger socialist being covered by another one. And
ginger socialist.
Here's a trippy thing, man. I got to interview Ian Anderson from Jethro Tull.
Wow.
I'm a big Jethro Tull fan.
Wow, me too.
And I grew up with it. Like, yeah, my dad introduced me to Jethro Tull when I was, when I was like 6, and I just thought, like, even as like a little kid, I just thought like the guitar riff to Aqualung was one of the coolest things I ever heard. I mean, it's still one of my favorite licks,
Yes.
But, and then they were really elaborate in their album art and stuff. So as a little kid, I just really loved it. Like, I just loved just looking at the albums for hours, and then I would listen to it, when my parents would let me, because I was too young to touch a turntable, and they had a vinyl record player.
Right.
And so I just loved it. Like, I fell in love with classic rock. I fell in love with Jethro Tull. So these years later, I'm interviewing Ian Anderson, and here's the trippy thing. I was traveling when I was doing it. Like, I was on the road, and I was passing through Pittsburgh, which is where I'm from, and that's where my family lives. So I was with my parents, and I needed a quiet place to do this interview. Now, at the time, my grandmother was, she was living in a community. She wasn't able to live on her own anymore at this time. So her house was just empty. So I was like, well, I'm going to go to my grandma's house because I'll have some privacy to do this interview. And I told my parents, I'm like, hey, I got to go to grandma's house. Can I get a key? I got to do this. I got to record this thing. And they were like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I go to my grandma's house, and it was kind of a trippy moment because what I realized was that I was in the same room that my dad and my uncle were in when they listened to Jethro Tull for the first time.
That is awesome. That
and
cool.
It was like my dad's older brother would like buy the records, and then he'd show them to my dad.
Right.
So, it was kind of like a trippy moment. Like, I almost like got choked up a little bit. So I'm just like, man, this is where my dad heard Jethro Tull for the first time.
Wow.
And now all these years later, in the same room, his son's doing an interview with Ian Anderson.
Wow.
So it was kind of cool. Like,
It's
it was kind of a
very
special
cool.
moment, you know, like especially since like my uncle actually had passed away like shortly before that too.
Oh,
like
right.
he died kind of sadly. So you know, it was a cool moment. It was a really
Nice,
special
man.
moment.
That's a beautiful thing to share, and that is amazing to just think about that moment that you had. It's amazing, man. I mean, you know what I say a lot lately is like the chances of us all being here. It's like trillions to one. And the chances of us even being alive and breathing and being human, it's trillions, you know, trillions, and we can't even fathom the chances of the human race existing and all this stuff. And then for you to have that moment in your life, think of the chances of that. You know, on top of everything else. It's, you know, it's just you can't even conceive. God, it's amazing. What an amazing
I might
thing
not
to
have even
happen.
liked Jethro Tull. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy play of events.
Okay, here's we're going to just go all over the place like a pinball. Okay, you ready?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Do you dress up when you go on stage and do stand-up comedy?
It's not much different than this, man. I'm a jeans and a t-shirt guy. I actually have gym shorts on at the moment. You can't see that, but yeah, I am a jeans and a t-shirt guy. I'll wear a button down sometimes, and it's not necessarily pre-planned. It's just like whatever the mood strikes.
Do you know why I'm laughing right now?
Sometimes.
I got to tell you why I'm laughing. Because when I go to your website, there's a photograph of you. It's at the top, and it shows you in like a tie, three-piece suit kind of thing. And I imagined that this was what you looked like when you went on stage sometimes. And I couldn't picture you doing stand-up like that. That's why I'm getting such a kick out of it.
Yeah, no, that was just like I did a headshot thing, and they wanted some of them in suits, and then some of them from that same shoot. Like there's ones where I'm in a State of Alert t-shirt, you know. So we mixed it up, but yeah, I don't wear a suit to do stand up. I just don't. I mean, I don't feel comfortable.
No, and it's important to feel comfortable when you're on stage talking to a bunch of people, and that helps. Is just the right attire can make you feel. This is something that interests me. I'm really interested in stand-up comedy. I've never done it, but I'd like to try it one day. And I am so fascinated by everyone who's got the urge to actually go up and do it. I've got a lot of respect for all of you.
It's a lot of fun, man. I mean, it's one of my favorite things in the world to do. And awesome. God, I mean, I know you watch Get Your News on Thrawn, so you hear me say this constantly, but God, I miss it so freaking much. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, it's been a weird time.
Right. So I just want to hear you talk a little bit more about what stand-up means to you. It is the most important thing in your life. I'm just kind of curious. I mean, how much support do you get from family with what you're the most passionate? Do they come out to your shows when they can?
Yeah.
Great, man.
Yeah. I mean, my parents have seen me a lot of times.
That's fantastic.
I don't even know how many at this point. I mean, they, you know, because it's like they enjoy it, and you know, at this point, it's like they're kind of like, okay, you're doing your thing. And in fact, this is kind of like a goofy story. I was up in New York, and I was just doing some stuff in New York, and at the time, I was engaged, and you know, the engagement didn't work out. We just kind of, you know, weren't meant to be. And I was taking, you know what the megabus is? No. The mega. It's like, so it's like an alternative to Greyhound, basically.
Okay.
And it's not. I don't think it's on the West Coast. It's not important, but basically, I was on a bus. That's all that's important here. But so I was on a megabus, and I was going back to Pittsburgh, where my car was. Like, what I did was, like, this was when I lived in Nashville, so I drove up to Pittsburgh, left my car at my folks' place, went up to New York to do my thing, and, you know, I was really struggling with my personal life, because I was engaged, and I didn't know if I was meant to go through with this, right? Wow. And so my dad picks me up from the bus station, and I get in the car, and he just goes, "Hey, how was it?" And I go, "I don't think I can do this." And he just goes, what, you mean comedy? I mean, you've been doing it for years now. You're making a living at it. I mean, don't you think you should? And then I was like, no. I don't know if I can get married.
Oh,
You know.
oh, that's hilarious.
Like usually, I mean, obviously it's, I can kind of laugh about it now. At the time it was difficult, but like, it's usually the parents going to be like, it's about time you said that. Time to get a real job. But my dad was just like, you're doing, like, you're doing it now. Like, you want to give up now? Like,
right.
He's confused.
Right. But it could apply either way. And that's funny. It's a totally,
yeah.
it's just a funny
it's like one of those
misunderstanding.
things, man. When I didn't, because I did the grad school thing. Like in my previous life, I was an academic, and like
In my previous life, I was an academic. Let's hope you retain some of that.
I hope. Yeah, I don't know. I guess sometimes I'll relive that stuff with like other people with.
You can't take it with you, Ron. You can't take it with you. I'm sorry.
Huh?
You can't take it with you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, like anyway, my parents, they weren't thrilled when I was like, hey, I'm not going to go on for my PhD because I really want to try to do comedy for real. Like I really want to try to make it. But they accepted it. Like they were like, okay, that's, it's your life. If you really want to take a chance on a dream, do it now when you're young. And, that was in 2012 and I haven't had to turn back since. Here we go.
I just want to tell you, I don't know if you realize it because it seems like you've always had the support of your family with what you're passionate about. I wasn't as fortunate. I mean, they supported me, but they wouldn't come out to my shows because I was a rock singer and my band was loud and people were smoking cigarettes in the bars. And then sometimes there were fights and my family wouldn't come out, So, I know the struggle and I understand it's like being lit, bro. When your family does support you at what you're into, it lifts you up. And I don't even know if you realize how lifted up you were all those years. And they, with all that love and the fact that they're coming out and they're going out of their way to do that for you, man, I wish I had that when I was doing my thing.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. When I had like my little punk garage bands in high school and stuff, my parents never really came out to that.
Whoa! Stop! Put the brakes on. What instrument?
Guitar.
You're the guitar player. Any vocaling at all? Did you like do backup?
Yeah.
Bro, how old were you? What were the names of your bands? Names are very important. If you're in punk bands, I need to know the names.
We were called Open Till 2.
Right on.
And we got our name because what we did, we all kind of grew up in like a little suburb of Pittsburgh, basically, and we all lived near each other. And we would, in my neighborhood, there weren't a lot of kids into punk rock, I mean, in the city, there were, there was a punk rock scene and stuff. Pittsburgh actually, had a pretty good punk scene, still does to my knowledge. But, we were like just nerdy kids in the suburbs that were too young to drive. So it was like a foreign world to us in many ways. And in our suburb, there weren't many people into punk rock there. So What we would do is we would skateboard, and then we would go have band practice after we were done skateboarding. And the way we would know it was time for band practice is we would just get kicked out of whatever parking lot we were in. And one of the parking lots we went to a lot was the local Taco Bell. And at the time, that local Taco Bell was open till 2. So there was a big sign on the door that said open till 2. So we called our band Open Till 2.
That is awesome, bro. That is so cool.
I mean, dude, we were pretty, I guess, whenever I look back on it, I always say, I'm like, well, it definitely taught me a lot about a work ethic because it's like, just the practice, we really went through a lot because we didn't have cars. So what we actually did, and we couldn't always practice in the same place because sometimes we would practice in my parents' basement and they would eventually be like, we can't today, I'm sorry. And sometimes we would practice in the drummer's garage, and sometimes his parents would be like, not today, sorry. So we had to like go back and forth, and then the bass player, his parents were like, don't even come in here.
Right.
So like we would actually take our equipment in a red wagon, like, you know, one of those like red wagons that you have as a kid.
Little red,
we would actually
red flyer, yeah.
Our PAs in our, yeah.
Yeah.
We would lug our PAs in a wagon to go to one house or the other. And this is Pennsylvania, so it's hilly. It's super hilly, man.
Goodness.
And we would like pull our wagons and shit to go practice somewhere.
The wagon
so
train.
By the time we were, yeah, we were just sweaty and exhausted. And then it'd be like, okay, time for band practice.
That
So we never
is
had short practices.
dedication, folks. Dedication. Ron Placone showing you what dedication really is at such an early age. I mean, seriously,
It was a lot of fun.
you guys were hungry, man.
I mean, it's funny because looking back, it probably kept us. It probably got us into a little bit of trouble, but kept us out of a lot more trouble. You know what I mean?
It
Like,
just shows
so-
how deep your passion for music goes, starting at a very early age. And I want to hear some of your musical influences as you grew, because I know you've always been into punk. I'm sure that's not the only musical influence you have, but I'd want to hear, since it is what I believe to be your main influence, I want to hear, you know, who's influencing you musically.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of stuff, but like to kind of give you, you know, the evolution of it all. You know, when the first thing I was introduced to was classic rock, and I still love classic rock to this day. You know, and when I was a kid, it was like Jethro Tull, who, you know, still one of my favorite bands. I'm a huge Springsteen guy. I love Springsteen. So at first I was a big Stones guy. I mean, I still am, but I was more of a Let It Bleed guy than a Let It Be guy.
Can I pause you right there? Are you more of a Stones fan now that they are fighting with Donald Trump to get him to stop using their music? I like that.
Well, they've always done that.
I
Yeah,
like
I mean,
that.
I totally like that about them. But they were really outspoken about Bush too.
Yes.
So they have a history of doing that kind of thing. And Petty told him to stop using Petty music too. And I think now the estate has told him stop using Tom Petty music. So yeah, I mean, I always loved that.
Hey man, listen, Trump, it's got to be Kid Rock or country, and you bet that those are your selections.
Right.
All right, you get nothing else, bro. But you know, Kid Rock's got a lot of great music out there, so I'm sure you'll find some great songs.
You know what's funny? So Kid Rock's not my personal cup of tea, but I remember there was that Social Distortion single that came out, and I'm a big Social D fan. I don't really care for that song, but like I'm a big Social Distortion fan overall. And that like single that they had recently, and I guess by recently it's been like quite a few years at this point, but you know, like more recently than like their older stuff. For some reason, I think I misheard a DJ when I was like just driving and the radio was on, and I thought that was a Kid Rock song. So I was just like, wow, this is a really good Kid Rock song. For Kid Rock, this is an excellent song. And then I found out it was Social Distortion, and I was like, wow, this is a really not so great Social Distortion song. This is like one of
No,
my least
the
favorite.
DJ said those kids rock. That's what he said.
I mean, when it comes to the Motor City, I'm more of an MC5 Stooges guy. Not so much Kid Rock, but you know, I like Eminem too.
I do too. I like anybody who's passionate and talented and good at what they do. I like any musician. You know what, man? I've blacklisted entire genres before, and I learned that I was restricting myself and limiting myself, and I'm open to everything now. I mean, there can be someone literally banging trash can lids together on a street corner, and I will get some kind of value out of that. You know, it doesn't matter anything.
Yeah,
that, you know?
I think that's the hipster belly stuff that was really big a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I mean, I dug all that stuff too. I mean, yeah. So for me, it was kind of like classic rock, and then like as you grow older, you really want to find something that's your own, right? And for me, that was Nirvana. Like I discovered Nirvana when I was 10, which would have been like pretty much right when Kurt Cobain died. But like I discovered Nirvana, And that just blew my mind. Like, I'd never heard anything like that ever. And I loved it. And then from there,
Wait, stop. Whoa, stop at Nirvana. Hold on. What was it about Nirvana that really grabbed you?
I loved just the emotion of it, the rawness of it, the fact that, and at the time I was like, at this point, I was kind of, messing around on guitar a little bit, trying to figure out some chords. And, sometimes when you listen to like, a Jethro Tull or a Led Zeppelin, it's so musically complex, which there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I love it. But, when you're a kid trying to like, bang around in a garage, sometimes that just seems so unattainable, because they're just so, good. And meanwhile, like Nirvana, I mean, that was just...
I could do this. I can achieve that.
Yeah, right.
Like, man,
yeah,
what have I been thinking?
I love the songs.
Keep it within my
just as
abilities.
Much, and I could play it, So I got really into Nirvana.
The melodies, the melodies, Nirvana's melodies and their hooks. Bro, Nirvana would literally have 3 hooks in a song and repeat them over, and you'd be like, wait, that's so catchy.
Yeah.
Then they'd hit the next one. You're like, whoa, that's catchy too. And then they'd hit the next one, and you're like, this is all in one song. They were just so, they knew how to grab you, man. I loved it. I mean,
he
knew
how to craft a perfect pop song.
How much credit do you give their drummer?
Oh, a lot. Well, I mean, and multiple drummers. I mean, it wasn't just Dave Grohl. I mean, Chad Channing, he really kind of innovated the way drums should be played in that band. And Dave will even attest to that. He'll be like, look, with Nevermind, and I think that Dave Grohl is a better player than Chad Channing was. But he still kind of duplicated those parts, The
energy, there's an energy, like a chaotic energy to it that it's hard to put your finger on it. But you're right. He carried it on. Yeah.
He really did, and they were just a fantastic nucleus. Even later, like when Pat Smear joined, like I really love what like Pat Smear brought to the band. Around like the In Utero times and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, and they, it's funny, I don't know where I found the footage, but I heard it somewhere where you hear Kurt covering a couple, like, John Lennon tunes. Mm-hmm. And when you hear that, like, you realize just how Beatles-esque they really were, and just how, he really knew how to craft that perfect pop song.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like, even early on, exactly. I mean, About a Girl is, like, a perfect pop song. And that was at a time where, like, it wasn't cool to do that. Like the sub pop world, it wasn't okay to necessarily do that. But they did it anyway, and it really freaking worked.
Right.
And, from there, I just discovered all kinds of stuff. Because what I used to do, again, this is like pre-internet, or at least pre-internet as we know it now.
Sure.
And again, I'm just a nerdy little kid in the suburbs.
Right.
Like trying to gravitate towards any dose of culture I could grab that wasn't just, based around a football team, Right. I grew up in Pennsylvania. And so I remember I got like some of the books that were out by Nirvana, and I would just like go through them, and I would look at Kurt Cobain's t-shirts, and whatever t-shirt he had on, I would go out and try to find that band and get their record.
Right.
So I wanted to know who Black Flag was, and I wanted to know who Flipper was.
Sure.
And then I discovered all that music, and then I also had a friend, Dave, who is still my friend to this day. We've known each other most of our lives at this point. And, Dave's like a year older than me, which now we are the same age. But back then, he was like way older than me. Like, it was like, oh yeah, Dave's real experienced, And he was into punk rock. I don't know how he got into it initially or how he got introduced to it, but he was into punk rock, and he had this backpack where he would take you remember like the whiteout pen that used to be really popular like back in like the late 90s and stuff. He would write band names all over his backpack, and I would just look at Dave's backpack and like remember one of the bands, and then I would go out and buy that record and I'd listen to it, and then I would talk to Dave about it as if I always knew about it. I'd be like, I'd be like, oh yeah, Fugazi. 13. I really dig that record, man. Start to finish, Waiting Room. Meanwhile, like a week ago, I didn't know who they were.
Right.
I just saw them on Dave's backpack.
Right.
Went out and bought the album. And then Dave was like, wow, you know about it? I'm like, yeah, I know about this stuff.
That's awesome.
Then years later, he found out because I mentioned it on like a podcast, and he heard it. Like he listened to it, and he heard me say like, yeah, I would just like. And he texted me, and he's like, dude, I'm like giggling hysterically on a train going to work right now because I'm listening to you talk about my backpack from when we were 12 years old.
Right.
But anyway.
Was music involved in any way in getting you into politics and activism?
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, you know, a lot of the messages, you know, I mean, especially like bands like Bad Religion and bands like, you know, I grew up in Pittsburgh. Like the biggest punk band in Pittsburgh is a band called Anti-Flag, who's still going today, and they were very outspoken politically. And you know, I think at first, as a kid growing up, I didn't understand a lot of those messages. Like I just didn't really get what they were really singing about. And then years later, like I realized, like, oh, this is what all those bands are singing about. This is what they're talking about. And I just appreciated it all so much more. So yeah, I mean, those messages were definitely earworms that later, as I grew up and, you know, Iraq happened and I discovered Noam Chomsky and I discovered, you know, all this stuff in college, you know, it definitely scratched each other's back, you know, so.
You've been paying attention to politics for a long time then.
Yeah, I mean, I was earlier than some, later than a lot. I mean, I was not into politics in high school. I just didn't have a political opinion.
Who was the president when you were in high school? Who's the president?
When I was in high school, it would have been Bush, W, and I didn't really.
You didn't have feelings either way about the president.
Well, in 2000, I didn't really care for Bush. But I also didn't care for Al Gore, and my only reason was because I knew what Tipper did with music.
Oh, that is so crazy that you say that, because I was an Al Gore fan because of I felt like he gave a crap about the environment, and that is so funny. Right. I hated what Tipper Gore did, and I never held that against him. It's so funny that you say that. I never even put those together.
Yeah, I mean, I was just a high school kid, man. And I didn't have political. I couldn't tell you the first thing about global warming back then, or, you know, I was just a kid with a skateboard and a guitar, and I wanted girls to like me, and I played in a band. And so to me, it was like, well, Tipper Gore's a fascist, but so is Bush, so I don't care. The system. So that was the extent of my political astuteness. You know, I just wasn't. But then,
those days, it was so nice and basic, man. You know, and then you could go on with your life, right?
Right. I mean, I just didn't, you know, I mean, I had a very small world at that point, really. Right. And then when I went off to college, and this is when Iraq was really vamping up, and this is when, you know, friends of mine were getting sent over there. I didn't know why we were over there.
I was in school too. During that time, people were coming back, and I was hearing horror stories from my friends that I was in school with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just like, why are we over there? Like, why are we? You know, I mean, especially when you're starting to wake up politically, you're just like, they didn't attack us.
Right.
It wasn't Iraq.
Right.
Why are we there? And then you kind of, for me, it was like I kind of read about, I saw a documentary called Outfoxed, which kind of really breaks down what cable news really does and looks specifically at Fox News, but kind of, you know, goes bigger circle. And then I started reading Noam Chomsky, and then I started reading, you know, about like media reform, and then like the floodgate was off, and within like a couple months, I was just really down this new rabbit hole where I was just starting to wake up politically, and I was just realizing like, oh wow, and then, you know, that just kind of eventually led to present day, I guess.
Right. So, whenever I watch you doing your show and I listen to what's going on with politics and things like that, one of the things that I've always talked about on my show is politics. And recently, I've watching with COVID, with Trump, with the protests, starting to feel like it might be breaking down a little bit. And I look at three things as an example as the breakdown of our political system. I look at Nixon, the way we handled him, the way we handled Bill Clinton, and the way we were unable to handle Donald Trump. And then I compare their crimes to each other. And what I see is I call this getting to the corner of the room and looking at the entire room and looking at the whole thing. And what I see is this inability for us to deal with the people who are in power, and even the other people who are set in power to balance it out are just sitting there with their hands folded, collecting their checks every month. How do you feel about that? Do you see a decay over that time period?
Well, I think that, and it goes beyond Trump. I mean, it goes to like our system as a whole. I mean, yeah, I think we're seeing just exactly what a disaster it really is. I mean, especially with this pandemic. I mean, we're realizing once and for all that our government is just a corporate coup. That's really all it is. We live in a banana republic, and all bets are off for that. They've made it very clear their first priority is just making sure the 1%'s happy, because that's who essentially at the end of the day signs their paychecks. And they have told the people to go pound sand. As far as Trump goes, I mean, again, it speaks to the system, because this is a guy who every day commits gross financial crimes and conflicts of interest, and none of that stuff was looked at all in 4 years. Why wasn't it looked at? Because Democrats and Republicans are complicit in it. They're complicit in that. They're not going to look at the actual financial, where he's like conflating stuff with his hotel and all these other things, and it's gross amounts of money. Meanwhile, like Jimmy Carter had to give up his peanut farm. They're not looking at any of that. Instead, they'd rather, talk about Russian memes for 4 years, because they're not going to talk about any of the actual crimes that they themselves are complicit in, because then they might get in trouble too.
Right.
So that's what we've seen for pretty much 4 years. And when you point stuff like that out, I'm not saying that Trump isn't corrupt to the T. He is. Trump is insanely corrupt. The problem is the system enables him. He didn't take a wholesome system and contaminate it. It's a contaminated system. He's the whitehead at the top of it. He's the zit on the forehead of our contaminated system.
Yes, he is, and I'd like to pop that zit. Is that coffee? Is that coffee you're drinking, Ron?
This is just coffee, yeah, man. I'm not
coffee.
Even though I'm in a different time zone. If we were both on the West Coast right now, I would have had to have accepted a later time slot from you, because I'm not a morning person. But being this is a little bit later for me, this is a more common hour for me.
Okay, where did Lucy come from?
Lucy is my cat, and we go back to my senior year of college, where I was just living in a house with two of my buddies, one who was just recently a groomsman in my wedding, and we wanted a cat because we had some mice in the basement, and one October, Lucy just ran into the house,
right,
and wouldn't leave. My roommate Sean went out to have a cigarette. Lucy just ran inside.
That is a crazy. And I would have never guessed that Lucy just showed up at your door.
She just showed up. Showed up. And she was a stray. But like she really, like her and I kind of connected pretty quick. Like as soon as I came in, and I wasn't the first person in the house she met, because like my other roommates were home, and at the time I wasn't. But I came home and I was all excited. I'm like, oh, we have a cat. And she just came up to me and she, was like real affectionate. And then like when it was like time for bed, she kind of followed me. Like she's just like, oh,
she
cool,
liked you. That's
and so,
cute.
Like, and she
chose you.
Yeah, and she really did, man. And it was really cool. And so she always just crashed in my room.
Man, I would love to see a comic strip about that. I'd love to see a comic strip around that. The history.
A throwback one?
Yeah, that would be so awesome, man. Was she a little
That,
kitten?
I'll keep that in mind.
Was she tiny?
What?
Was she like a little kitten, or was she full grown?
Oh yeah, she was so tiny.
I
It
want to
was funny
see cartoon kitten Lucy, man.
we didn't get her fixed right away because we were just broke college kids. So at first she was still going in and out of the house. Like we lived in a little, college, like it was basically like an animal house type deal, and it was really funny because we would have like keggers and stuff. I mean, we were college kids. We'd have keggers.
I like the kegger reference. I like the kegger reference. I caught your kegger reference on your other interview the other day, but that's okay. We'll keep going.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. So she would just show up, and like people at the party, they'd be like, "Hey, there's a cat just like walking around here." And she came in from outside, and I'm like, "Yeah, she's with us. That's our cat."
Oh.
So she was, even back then, she was a social butterfly.
That's so cute.
She liked to be around people, and she would kind of like just mingle at a party, like she was a person almost. And yeah, and then when we left that house, I kind of was like, "Hey, can I keep Lucy?" And they were like, "We kind of thought you would. I mean, she's kind of really become your cat." And I'm like, "Great." So I kept her, and yeah, we've been together ever since. She's seen a lot of places, that cat, which it's too bad cats can't appreciate that kind of thing, or she would be able to celebrate how well traveled she is. But cats don't really care about that stuff. So,
so she dominates. Does she dominate your world? Because my cat dominates mine. Being a cat owner.
Oh, totally, man.
Yeah.
She runs the place. I just pay the bills, and my wife is actually mildly allergic to cats, and to her credit, she kind of was willing to adjust very early on. Like she was just like, "Yeah, there's no way he's going to tell this cat she can't sleep on the bed with us. That's not going to happen." So I just got to get some Benadryl, and she was very she was very kind. She was very, very kind.
So what I'm interested about the comic, was that your idea, or did he approach you? You've got a partner that you work with on that?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. I would write them, but I can't draw a stick figure to save my life, man.
Okay.
And so I would write these like dialogues between me and Lucy, and I mostly put them on my Patreon. That was like where they were, originated. Like I would put them on my Patreon, and Chris was one of my patrons. He was a fan of the Jimmy Dore Show, a fan of Get Your News On with Ron, and he just reached out to me and he goes, "Hey, I'm an animator out of New York. I really love these things you're writing. Would you want to make a comic out of this?" And I said, "Sure." And so yeah, we've been working on Lucy and Ron ever since. It's still pretty new. It's only been around like a little over a year now, and for the first year we didn't really even promote it much. I just kind of we would just make them and I would tweet them out, and that was it. We were just like, let's just get good at this. Let's make a great comic. And now we're starting to take it a little further. We actually got into CatCon this year, which COVID ruined that.
Congratulations.
But, we got in. Thanks, man. Yeah, we were really. And there's going to be a virtual one, so we'll see what happens. We might still participate in it, but either way, it's like, okay, we have that relationship now, so hopefully we'll start, being in the CatCon world, which is, for like a cat comic, that's sort of an essential, relationship to have.
Right.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool, and we're hoping that the next step's an animated series. That's, one of the writing projects I've been kind of diving into, especially during COVID. Is trying to make an animated series out of Lucy and Ron.
Wow, so cool, man! I'd like to see them come to life. That would be great.
Yeah, that's what we're trying for. That's what we're really trying for. It's unfortunately we don't really have like a team or anything like that. It's like it's just me, and we have an audio guy.
Go ahead.
What's up?
No. You said you got an audio guy.
Yeah, we have an audio guy who was like on board with it, and then we have myself and Chris. So we have like kind of the nucleus, but it takes a lot more than that to like really make an animation. But we're just building it as much as we can.
That's nice, man. Okay, so during that thing, you mentioned somebody. I think his name was what? Jimmy Doorway, Walkway, Walk. Who is that?
Yeah, Jimmy Dore.
Is that
yeah.
something you're on that show sometimes, aren't you?
Yeah, it's changed a little bit with COVID because right now, nobody can be in the studio except for Jimmy and
Okay.
Steph.
How did you meet them? I'm kind of curious how you met Jimmy and Steph and how you met Graham as well.
Sure. Well, I mean, I met Graham through Jimmy, so that one's a little more like yeah.
Now, I wouldn't have thought that. If someone was holding a gun to my head and they said, how did it happen? How did it go down? I would have said that you met Graham way before because you guys work so well together. It just seems like you guys have been friends forever, man. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, we have a lot of fun on the road. And yeah, but that whole, that whole thing of us starting touring together, that was actually a listener recommended it randomly on, I think it was one of my streams where like listener was just like, I love it when you and Graham do stuff. You guys should do a stand-up tour. And I was like, that's actually a really good idea. And I texted it to Graham and I'm like, dude, maybe, and he called me like right away. He called me.
Life-changing.
And, a couple months later, we had a little West Coast run booked where we were just going to get in the car and we did like Phoenix, Vegas. I think we did like a show in Lake Havasu. And then, what was the other city? San Diego. And we just did like 4 nights and we were like, let's see how this goes. And that was a couple of years ago.
Wow.
And, we look forward to rescheduling a very big United States tour. We're gonna reschedule all the cities we've missed this year, which is almost all of them. And,
Sure.
And we're gonna schedule even more cities.
Excellent.
Because we decided, like in the future, we're just gonna do it band style, and we're just gonna kind of get in the van so we can play as many cities as possible.
Right.
And just do like a 5-week tour. So I look forward to when that happens. But yeah, I met Graham through Jimmy. Like I was already doing stuff with Jimmy, and Graham, started coming into the studio some, and we became friends that way. Jimmy, I met for the first time. Well, I knew who Jimmy was, and in fact, I
from TYT.
He's had me tell this story before.
Okay.
Yeah, well, before that.
Okay.
Before that, I knew who Jimmy was as a comic. Jimmy had, my 2004 would have been when I started really, really getting into politics, 2003, 2004. And that year, Jimmy had, I think it would have been his first. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was his first Comedy Central special in 2004. So I've been trying to figure out who I was with, because I was with a couple of my friends that I want to say I'm still friends with, but I've asked some guys over the years, in fact, even at my wedding, because Jimmy was at my wedding and so were some of my college buddies, but I haven't figured out who I was with. But when I was a freshman in college, I watched Jimmy's first special.
Wow.
Just on TV. Yeah,
wow.
And I was not doing comedy at that time. I had no intentions of doing comedy at that time. It wasn't something, I was just like, I had like shoulder length hair and a bunch of piercings, and I listened to music, and I had a little like anti-folk thing going that I played, and that was like my creative output or whatever. But I watched Jimmy's first special, so I knew who Jimmy was for a long time.
Wow.
And then years later, I met him, and at this point, I had been doing comedy for a little while. I was about maybe 5 years in or something. We were both doing a show called On Point, which is a show that Anna Kasparian used to host. It's not around anymore, but it's like it's a TYT show that used to happen. He was on the panel, and so was I. And I was like, "Hey, you're Jimmy Dore. I watched your first special. I watch you on TYT stuff. I'm familiar, and I'm a comic." And he was like, "Oh, cool." And we just knew each other after that. I'd occasionally email him. And a couple years later, when I moved to Los Angeles, they say when you go to LA, you try to go to where you know people, because you're basically starting over again. Like I was a road comic, which basically means you drive around the country and do stand-up, and that's your job and your life. I was a road comic for, I want to say about 5 years. Full time.
Okay, stop. We're going to get back to Jimmy Dore in just a second. How long were you living in your car for, bro?
A year.
Oh
And then
my
I lived in my car.
God, a freaking year, man. What was it
It was about a
like?
year.
I mean, when you
But
would wake up in the morning
well,
and people would see you getting out of a car, how did people treat you? What kind of experiences did you have?
well, I have a little asterisk because here's the thing: when you're a comic, it's a little bit different, or I guess any live performance, a little. Because here's the way it would typically go: you would get a hotel room whenever you're performing.
Did you
It's
have
just
money,
whenever you're not performing that you don't have a hotel room.
right?
And I mean, you're not making a lot of money. So, I mean, I was making enough money to survive, but not much more. So,
But you
it's
were
not like I
living
could
in
just
your
buy.
car. You were looking for places to use bathroom, and what a hassle, bro. I mean, you went through that.
It has its hardships. I went through it, but I mean, I also had like a ton of couches to crash on. Like,
Oh, that's nice. Cool.
you know,
Okay, that's nice.
yeah, because like a lot of my friends, especially like getting back to a lot of my college buddies, I went to Indiana University in the Midwest, so a ton of my college buddies they live in the Midwest right now, which is like on the way to everything. So like, especially like my friends who live in Chicago and they had a guest room, so I would just stay with them constantly and I would just cook dinner or like walk the dogs if it would help, like whatever I could do. And we just enjoyed our time. And so a lot of times I would just find a place to crash. And at the time I had a lot of friends in Nashville still because I had just, lived there prior. So, I had a lot of like hubs where I would typically go whenever I was en route to the next gig. And if I was heading south, I might go to Nashville or Columbia, South Carolina, where I had a cousin. If I was going north, I might go to my parents in Pittsburgh. You just spent a lot of time looking at Google Maps.
Right.
And, there were those occasional nights where it was just sort of like awkward. I was in the middle of nowhere and I would just kind of spend the night in my car. Those did happen. So it's not like I was like really roughing it in the car compared to other people. Like I kind of had but it was, I didn't have a place to live. And I kind of had a system where whenever I would stop at a place, wherever I was crashing somewhere, I had one bag that was like my clothes and stuff. And then I had my guitar because I would always just travel with a guitar. And I would have the only other thing I would take out of the car. Oh wait, I had my electronics bag, which was like a webcam and a microphone and my laptop, and then I would have a box of my vinyl because I wouldn't want to leave vinyl out in the car. And that was all I got it all in one trip, and I would just bring all that in with me. I'd set it up the same way wherever I was, and just crash on the couch or bed that was mine, and and that was my life for a little while. And prior to that, I was on the road, but, I had a place to live. But, again, it's like, I was engaged, and when that didn't work out, my ex kept the condo because she had the money to, and I didn't. So she bought me out of it. And I just kind of thought, well, I might as well just live in my car because I'm doing 45 weeks a year. There's no reason I should pay rent. Like, why should I pay rent somewhere? Why would I pay rent for a place I'm going to be at 7 weeks a year?
Did you have police come up to you while you're sleeping in your car, or have a problem like think that somebody was going to try to rob you or anything?
No,
Nice,
I would always be in like a residential area or just somewhere. Yeah, I've gotten pulled over a good deal because, for a while I drove a 98 Accord with tinted windows. And, I didn't tint the windows. It came that way, but, when I bought it, and I think there were like 4 or 5 owners before me, but I drove this 98 Accord with tinted windows. And so a lot of times, like, if cops would see an out-of-state plate, which often I was in a different state, they would see an out-of-state plate with tinted windows in an older car. So they would, try to see if that was somebody, looking for trouble or doing whatever. And so I would get pulled over a good deal, but, that was about it.
So let's get back to Jimmy Dore.
Yeah, so I crossed paths with Jimmy when I was just on the road. So I would go to LA occasionally and do some stuff at TYT or wherever else. Do like podcasts or whatever.
And was he already married
so
to
when
Steph?
I moved to LA,
Was he already married to Steph at the time?
I believe so. I'm pretty sure they were definitely together. I don't.
So that's how you met.
I don't recall.
You met Steph through Jimmy, is what I'm wondering.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I knew Jimmy for a little while before I met Steph, but
Okay.
But what happened was I moved to LA at this point. This is like I'd already met Jimmy. We knew each other. We emailed back and forth. Like I knew who he was. And I moved to LA. And they always say when you move to LA, you should try to, just go wherever you know people and just start showing up places. Because now, my road resume didn't matter anymore. Like no one in LA cares that you were a road comic. Like it doesn't really mean all that much. So I was basically starting over, and I was just this anonymous dude in LA. I kind of figured I would eventually get a writing job somewhere and that'd be it. But so I'm looking at the calendar, like there's a couple websites that list all the comedy shows in town and stuff like that. So I'm looking at the calendar and I'm thinking, well, where should I go tonight to try to talk to whoever will talk to me? And at Flappers Comedy Club, the headliner was Jimmy Dore.
Huh.
So I just go and at that point he was really, that was when, the Jimmy Dore show was already popular, but it was kind of getting, you could tell it was kind of approaching the next level. You know what I mean? Because it's like it was like a sold out room and there were just a lot of, and this was like 2016. So like a lot of Bernie t-shirts and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh man, this guy was just he was just doing stand up. It wasn't a live Jimmy Dore show. It was just his stand up set. And, Steph was the feature act that night, so she was on the show too.
Oh, cool.
And, so afterwards I just kind of, went backstage and I was like, hey man, and he recognized me. He's like, Ron, right? And I'm like, yeah. And we shook hands and I go, yeah, I moved here. I live in LA now. And I remember he was like, oh, it's about time. Where were you? You were like in Oklahoma or something? And I was like, no, Tennessee. And he's like, yeah,
right.
Somewhere.
He meets a ton of people, sure.
And I was like, well, I live here now. I'd love to, do something or about with the show if you're looking for people. And, a couple weeks later, he invited me to do panel.
Get out! No, bro, you didn't have to fucking knock on doors. You didn't have to do the whole LA begging and groveling. You didn't have to suck dicks. What the fuck? Nobody gets it that easy, man. Thank you, Jimmy Dore. I just want to say thank you, Jimmy Dore, for doing this for Ron Placone. Thank you. Wow.
Yeah, no, it was really cool. He invited me to do a panel. I did it, and it was a rush, man. The first time I did panel with him, I just felt like, I felt like, because I had done, other political talk type things, and I was trying to do, as many podcasts as I could to just get better at it. And then, when I first sat in with Jimmy, I kind of felt like, oh, man, I was a college player, and I just played my first day in the NFL or something. You know what I mean? Like I felt like, oh, these are the big leagues. And it was intimidating. And I actually thought I did a terrible job. And maybe I did. I don't know. It was years ago. But, I guess I did good enough that he thought I was worth having back. So, he had me back. And then I started writing for him. And then it just, kind of morphed into what it is.
Whoa, stop. What do you mean you write for him? I don't know how that works. What do you mean you start writing for him?
I write for the show. I don't write everything. I don't write all the jokes, but yeah, some of those, and, the way it works is it's just pretty, it's pretty casual. It's like Jimmy will have an idea. He'll have something he wants to cover, and, he'll send it to me, and I'll try to come up with some jokes for it, like some just funny lines.
Does Jimmy Jimmy does your jokes on the show?
Yes.
Bro, I had no idea. That is so fucking cool. I mean, I had said at the beginning of the show, and I'm so glad I did. I said, you're a writer. Yes, he's a writer. He's a comedy writer, and he writes some of Jimmy's jokes, and I think that is fantastic. And Jimmy does a great job of reciting your jokes. I must give him credit, too. You write great jokes.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, just to clarify, it's just for the show. I don't write.
Yeah, no, I know, bro. I watch the show all the time, man. Yeah. I am on it. I got these guys watching it too. But I want to switch gears for just a second. Let me just ask you a question. Do you want to take a little break? Do you want to take like a 5-minute break? Because I'm fine to keep going. If you're fine to keep going.
No, let's keep going, man. Because I gotta hop off at some point. So yeah, let's keep going so you get all your questions.
Okay. I'm curious about if you're familiar with Graham's movie Earbuds.
Oh man, this is so embarrassing. So I've seen bits and pieces of it.
Okay.
But he gave me a copy a long time ago.
Right.
But I don't own a DVD player right now.
No, that's okay.
For me, so the only way I can play a DVD is if I need to find the charger for my old laptop that I haven't used in years. I don't even know if it'll fire up at this point. I need to find the charger for it somewhere, plug it in, let it get a little bit of life, and then see if the DVD player still works. That's the only way I'd be able to play a DVD. And now it's kind of like a running joke. It's actually a running joke between Graham and myself in the car. Like, whenever it somehow comes up, he'll be like, yeah, someday when you actually watch Earbuds that I gave you years ago, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to go to a pawn shop, find a guy that has an old 8-track player, like we make jokes about it. But I've actually never watched it straight through, and I really need to. I've read the book. I've read the Comedy Film Nerds book.
Okay.
But Earbuds, I don't,
all right.
just haven't seen it all the way through.
Okay, so this is what I want to ask you about that because let you off the hook a little bit. I didn't even know that Graham was a director until a week ago, and then I found the movie just, days before he came on. I purchased it on YouTube for $13 so I could watch it because I saw it was like a 2-hour thing and it was about podcasting. And I thought to myself, man, this is something that I'm into passionately. I do it 3 times a day and I've done that for over 5 years. So I wanted to see what this was about. And I knew it was something I was going to be interested in. So I went ahead and I watched the movie. And it touched me in such a way, more of a way than just about any other movie ever has. I got to know Graham in such a way that I didn't know the kinds of things that man had done. And it opened my eyes to a lot of things and it's changed my life. And it was the best goddamn $13 I've ever spent on YouTube. I would recommend everybody go do it. You too, Ron, go spend the $13. And man, I will I'm gonna fucking go into your live today and I'm gonna do a $13 super chat. I can't do that. I'll do a whatever. So you can do that, man. It's gonna be for Earbuds. I'm buying it for you. Everyone should have a copy of it. And it'll be the best goddamn 2 hours. And you know what, man? I thought I was going to be watching something about podcasting and basically Joe Rogan. That's what I thought I was going to be watching. I'm a huge Rogan fan. I was like, yeah, I named my dog Rogan. So I'm like, I'm going to be watching this. Joe Rogan gets like 3 minutes tops in this thing. It is all about relationships. It's all about people. It's all about the kind of things that you do, Ron, when you go out and you meet the people that watch you doing your podcasts and you realize how you have affected them. Ron, you've changed my life. You've affected me. You've affected my audience, and you go out and you affect other people all the time. And it must be, it is just such that to feel that connection with people. And when you go out and you actually meet these people, and that's what Earbuds is about. It's all about the relationships and the way lives are changed, and the way podcasting has just become this way of life for many people. And it's a healthy thing for a lot of people. It can be unhealthy too, and I'm trying to, I've treated it in an unhealthy manner sometimes, and I've tried to not bully people and and scream and yell and whatever, but that's how I got to where I am today, from screaming and yelling. That's always been my thing. That's why my voice is hoarse. I've got a little bit of a horse.
Yeah, man. Well, I gotta watch it. You're right. I mean, I really need to watch it. And yeah, I mean, Graham was also involved with. They did a podcast festival in LA. It was like just LA Podfest, and I only got to go to it once, and it was such a cool event. I mean, I got to do it with Jimmy, and it was I had so much freaking fun at that thing. But it's a lot to put something like that on, I guess. So it's not really a thing anymore, but. Maybe it'll come back. I don't know. Be cool if it did.
Yeah. In fact, when I had Graham on, he said, the people in that movie, he says, I'm still talking to, we're still family, it's amazing. So let me get off of that subject, move on to another one. I'm a cannabis-based show. And this, we're superimposed right now over my garden, which is, it shows an organic grow of, 10, 11 foot tall cannabis trees. There's 6 of them, and they're surrounded by vegetables that I'm growing organically. And then you and I are superimposed inside that garden. It's a beautiful thing. And I know that you are a supporter and a user of cannabis. I was just wondering, what do you prefer, sativa or indica?
Sativa.
That's your thing, man. Sativa. Baby.
I like hybrids. Like I'm not.
Oh no,
I
do too.
If I want to go to sleep, like an indica's cool, but I usually like to still feel alert and stuff. Like I don't need help falling asleep most of the time. So and plus I don't really. This is such I know so many people say this, and I feel like it's such a cliche, but it is the truth. Like I don't really care for sleep much. Like it's something I do because I have to, but. Mm-hmm. But I don't like doing it a lot. Like I like to do it as little as possible to feel good, I don't like to do it more than I have to or less, just enough so that I'm good.
Right.
But so yeah, I prefer a sativa.
Nice. I like a nice fruity strain myself as well. I've got this is kind of a weird question. Which current musician best represents our current social and political status? Current musician.
Wow, that's a really cool question, and
thank you.
I feel like it's so hard to just pick one. I'll pick a couple.
All right, great. That's what I want.
I think Killer Mike. Mm-hmm. Is saying a lot of important things right now, and I'm I also really enjoy his music. I think that and
you could definitely speak through their music as well, what they're saying and what they're saying.
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, contemporarily, one of my favorite songwriters right now is a guy named Craig Finn. He's probably best known for his band, The Hold Steady.
Oh, okay, The Hold Steady.
I love The Hold. They're one of my favorite bands right now. But he does solo stuff too, and I like his solo stuff a lot as well. And I feel like the stuff he sings about, it really kind of, I think, captures our contemporary moment. I mean, a lot of, he lives in Brooklyn, and a lot of his songs are about just the state of affairs right now, in an emotional way. And there's sort of this underlying positivity where it's like, we're going to come out the other end and we're going to be a stronger humanity for it, which, it's a hope that I myself hold on to, I really hope that that's the reality, and I think it can be. So I feel like his music is really, it's really helpful to me right now. It's really important stuff. And Kimya Dawson, I think, kind of meets the moment in a lot of ways right now. And I've been a fan of hers for a long time. Who else would I really want to highlight? I think that's a pretty good.
Let me pose something at you, and it might blow you away if you get a chance, because I was an Aerosmith fan back in the day when I was growing up. And I kind of fell away. Fell away from them. I loved when they did the whole thing with what I think it was Run DMC, and I was with them then. And then after that, they kind of got away from me. But then the other day, I heard I don't know the names. The song is it has everything to do with today. And the way the song goes, I can't think of the name of the song. It's like something's wrong in the world today. I'm not sure what it is.
Oh, Living on the Edge.
Oh my goodness. Man, you guys want to hear a song that nails where we are today. Check out that song from Aerosmith from, I don't know, that must have been the mid 90s or something, or maybe a little later.
No, it was earlier.
Was it earlier?
I want to say Get a Grip. I think Get a Grip was early 90s.
Yeah.
I want to say 92, but that's just off the top of my head, so I could be totally wrong. But I'm pretty sure it was like early 90s. And yeah, I think that is such an underrated album. I think that might be my favorite Aerosmith album. And that was like one of those things, right before I really got into Nirvana, that was like my go-to album, was the Get a Grip album by it. And at the time, this was like in the days of like Walkmans, so I had it on cassette.
Right.
And I would just listen to that cassette nonstop. I loved that album. I still do. I mean, that's still such a fun album. And, I got it on CD because I just saw it in a record store used for like $5 or something. Mm-hmm. And, the only time I listen to CDs anymore is in my car. But, again, a couple years ago, I spent a lot of time in my car. So it was a good CD to have on hand. Like, it was just a fun spin that would kind of make the time go by.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really good record. And that song is Living on the Edge. And, Crying's on that album. Crazy's on that album. Eat the Rich is you want to talk about another song that's really contemporarily relevant?
Yes, I do.
Eat the Rich is on that album.
Yeah. They seem to just nail it. It's listen, Ron, I want to ask you a really, this one's like, I've been thinking about this. The year you were born, that year has a lot of meaning for me today. It seems like we've become that. And, I have a feeling that because you're familiar with the whole Orwell, you saw the movie Brazil?
I have not.
Okay, you're going to contact me and you're going to thank me after you watch Brazil.
All right, Brazil.
Yes,
I gotta watch it.
That's Terry Gilliam.
Okay.
From the Terry Gilliam from why can't I think of the name of the comedy group from England all of a sudden? Monty Python.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right?
I got you.
Well,
yeah.
Bro, it is a dystopian. It's one of the best dystopians I've ever seen in my entire life. That movie will twist your brain, man. You're just going to be like, wow, I'm so glad I saw this. But, commentary on the way, what started for me with Barack Obama, and I hate to get too political here, but the indefinite detention was when the hair raised up on the back of my neck. And you know what I said? It was back then. It was 2012 when I made a video on YouTube, and I said, it's fine for Barack Obama to pass this law. He's not going to abuse it, but who's going to be our next president? And here we are. And he's got these federal troops going in there. They're grabbing people off the street and they're disappearing them. And they call them terrorists. And because of Barack Obama's silly little law, these people are vanishing and they have no recourse. How do you feel about that, 1984?
Yeah, no kidding, man. I mean, and I would actually say Barack Obama did abuse it. I mean, he didn't do it as on the surface as Donald Trump did. He certainly didn't do it to this level. But, his treatment of whistleblowers and the way he treated Edward Snowden. That's
right. You're right. You know what? I didn't even think about all that stuff. You're right.
Yeah, so and that was like what it was meant for. So it was it was a horrible policy through and through, and he knew what he was doing with it. And, he definitely, so many things that he should have done in those cases that he didn't do, and he in fact did the opposite.
What pulls those strings, Ron? What pulls those strings? What makes him do the things, makes those decisions, do you think?
I think it's the military-industrial complex. I think it's like, they get their bidding, and that's kind of always been the way it is.
You think it's in the form of donations, or how do you corrupt someone like that in politics? There's lobbyists. So what do the lobbyists? I wonder what their game is. How do they do that?
Well, we have an economy based off of war. So these are, the war profiteers really have all the power. So, I mean, I think they just sort of, they kind of get what they want. They're right there in DC. They're these kind of like, actors behind the scene that make sure the economy of war keeps kind of going as usual. And, Trump's been a willing participant. Obama was a willing participant. GW was a willing, they've all kind of just fallen in line. And, that's kind of.
Man, you remember, you look
really
back in history and you see in history where presidents did beautiful things to change bad, to do things that made the world a better place. And man, I miss those days.
I've only ever read about them. I say.
Oh my God, right?
When I was born, Reagan was around, so it's like, it's there's generations of people who only know just horrible right-wing presidents.
Right.
And
right.
Even Obama was a right-wing president. He just talked more politely than what we were used to.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I fell for it. I thought he was sincere about his, platform, but he wasn't.
All right, so now we're going to stop politics right now, and I'm going to ask you totally different direction here. Have you ever done character acting like Steph does? I saw what Steph does, and it blew my mind. She's amazing, right?
Yeah. Yes, I have. I've done a couple like pilot projects here and there. Nothing that ever got picked up or anything.
I don't know. No. I seem to remember some kind of some sort of Darth Vader character.
Oh, well, that's just a goofy thing I do on my show. I do a New Wave Vader character where Darth Vader is he's basically a musician, and he comes back and he thinks that everything, like he thought Return of the Jedi was an album. And he thinks it's all just about his band, and he has a duo with Iggy Pop called Galaxy Glam, and that's his new project. So that's New Wave Vader, and he occasionally appears on my show.
On your show, Get Your News On with Ron on that program.
That's right.
That's correct.
On Get Your News On with Ron, yeah. Which again, YouTube.com/Ron Placone, where we'll be once I get back. At the end of the month, the streams will be, back again. But, I'm taking a little break from the streams, but I'm still making some short videos here and there. And yeah, so I do that, and then I do, I do a Russian meme maker called Chaos Agent 11. He's another character that I do, and then there's a few others, and yeah, occasionally that's on Get Your News On with Ron. It's fun.
It's been a dream of mine, Ron. I know it's kind of crazy to ask, but I wanted to harmonize your harmony part on Get Your News On with Ron. Would you sing it for me so I could harmonize along with you?
Sure.
Go ahead. Hit it.
Let me grab my
Hit
guitar.
it. Oh, you're gonna get your guitar! I'm so excited.
Why not?
Now that I've got you here, I can tell you what's going on Zoom with your microphone. It's covering up your guitar on your mic, and I can help you fix that. And I would love to help you fix that.
Yeah, well, right now I'm on my phone, so I don't know what it's going to sound like.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm just telling you, when you're doing your Zoom show, I think it's important that people should hear your guitar. And I'm going to be able to tell you that setting in your Windows sound system, it's audio. It makes your voice sound more clear, and it's filtering out the background. You want to turn that setting off, and I'm going to help you do that. We're going to fix that on your computer.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't use Windows, so it'll be. But what I did do was I went in the Zoom settings.
Wait! What are you broadcasting with? Mac?
I use a Mac. Yeah, I use a Mac.
There'll be a sound setting.
Yeah, well, what I did was, and I don't know if it totally fixed it or not, but I did. There's this. You go into the advanced settings on Zoom, and you can turn off the. And it's automatically on, but you can turn off the thing that suppresses other noises.
Yes, that is it. I'm so glad you found that, man. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah,
I can't wait to hear your guitar. Oh my God. I'm so glad. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, here, I'll grab my guitar. And
All
do the
right,
theme
man.
Song.
Go ahead.
All right.
And let me clear my throat here. I'm trying to remember. Get your news on with Ron. Get your news on with Ron. Know what's going on. News on today. I think I'm ready. The Vicksburg and Pittsburgh, the Vicksburg and Pittsburgh, the Vicksburg and Pittsburgh. Mama, 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 pop, 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 pop. Give me the rub. I need the rub. Give me the rub. Get your news. Get your news. I'm ready.
All right, you ready? I hope I am. I don't know. It's still.
Get your news on with Ron so you know what's going on. Get your news on today. Get your news on with Ron so you know what's going on. You get your news on today.
An article and Ron Placone. We go here together and
Make it our own. News on with Ron so you know what's going on. Get your news on today. Yay, 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 yay. Hey,
It's
hey,
funny, man. My buddy,
slow clap.
Thanks, that was fun.
Slow clap with duck lips.
My buddy Jeff, who's become a friend over the years, he actually he does the high harmony and the recording of the song. And so when we played Philadelphia, he did request that like we close with the theme song so you can sing it live.
Man.
So we actually closed with the Get Your News On Ron theme song.
Bro, I want to tell you, I know that I'm pretty sure that you can't see the chat, but it's going off right now. They're just loving this right now.
Well, tell everyone I said hello.
Oh, they hear you and they see you. And if you go back and you watch this, Ron, you'll see all the chat will be on screen, no matter which. We're broadcasting to eight. Oh, that's another thing we got to talk about Restream before you go. So don't run off before we talk about Restream. It's changed.
Right.
You and Restream have changed my life on podcasting.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
Yes.
Yeah, Restream's great. I mean, I use StreamYard to like manage my actual stream, and then I use Restream to send it out.
Yes.
So
I'm broadcasting.
Makes it easy.
I'm broadcasting to 18 channels using Restream.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not quite that ambitious. I think I only do like 4, I think.
4, right?
And I haven't figured out Rockfin yet. I haven't figured out how to. I mean, I have a Rockfin, but I haven't figured out how to stream on anything. So still trying to figure that out.
Okay. I'll look and see if they have that on Restream. You gonna sing us a song? I want you to sing.
No. I'm not quite ready for that yet. We did the theme song. I feel like that was.
It was great. I think it was fantastic. It was like.
It was fun, man.
Man, that's fantastic.
That was a good time.
Well, it must have sounded really off for you. Was it like because I must have been on a delay for you, right?
Yeah, I mean, but it's like I'm used to that by now. I mean, whenever we do the Zoom shows, like and when we do songs, I mean, everyone sings along, and it's always, but it's like you do what you can. Can we
talk about that?
Feel like you're together.
Can we talk about that for a second?
Sure. Yeah.
I went to the Zoom show for the first time. I was impressed. When everyone started singing along with you, I was just blown away. I was like, wow, these people have been watching and they're singing along. And it was like it was for me. I don't get out much, Ron. I live in the mountains. It was like being in a bar, man, watching you. For me, it was. It's so fun, and I really hope people will check out the Zoom on Saturdays at 7 p.m.
Yeah. 7 p.m. Pacific, and yeah, we'll be announcing the next one. I have a feeling like when I get back to town, we'll probably do one that weekend. And, I just need to talk to Graham and work it out. But you follow me on Twitter, but we always tweet about it. So.
Okay, so can we talk about your name, and can we talk about your last name and your middle name?
Sure.
Okay, so was your...
Yeah, wow, we've been doing this a while.
I know.
All right, I got a few more minutes, and then I got to take off.
Yeah, it's only been an hour and a half, bro. This is nothing. I go 4 hours with people. It's like a Rogan show. It's nothing, bro. We got to get in. We got to get into it. So, was your name originally pronounced Placone? Was the E pronounced E at the end, and you guys like Americanized it?
Well, no, it would be Placone because
Placone. I was so close. I was so close. Okay, awesome. Now, your middle name. Can we talk about that? I think I know that it is.
Sure.
I think I know it's Anthony. Oh, Anthony. He's a big boy. He can speak for himself. Now, what was it you said? I'm funny. How am I funny? Funny how? That's my favorite name.
Right.
Anthony. Oh, who's Anthony? Who's Anthony? Who's Anthony? Who's Anthony? Man, Anthony's one of the funnest names in the world. I love it.
It's a fun name.
It's a comedy name. It's fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's perfect, man. So that's a beautiful thing. I like talking about names for some reason. I don't know why. You know why? It was because I always used to try to look at presidents' names and people in power and try to say that their last name was going to be exactly how they ruled. And people were like, okay, George Bush. I'd be like, he hides in the bushes because he's a coward. That was it. Bush. He's in the bushes.
That's what Sean Spicer ended up doing that.
Oh, really? That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So.
And then, there's Donald Trump with the name that he trumps everybody with his silliness. And nobody can out-silly that man. That's a good, Trump. That's like, it says everything about him. If my father gave me $100 million, not $1 million, if my father had given me $100 million, I'd be a billionaire today too. And I'd be a maybe even a trillionaire. And this guy just squandered it all. But no, let's not talk about that. Sometimes I go off on that. I don't know why. Okay. Serious question. Were you really sideswiped, Ron, in the accident, or were you T-boned? Did someone nail you from the side, or did they just slide against your car?
No, it was a side, basically it was a big truck, and it was actually a Sherwin-Williams truck, the paint company, and the dude just didn't look, and he merged, and he just nailed me, and I flew across. Yeah,
that's not a side swipe, man. When you say side swipe, you make it sound like it was nothing, and that is basically when something that big hits you from the side, you're getting T-boned. And where I'm from,
sideswiped. All right, I didn't know there was like a big qualifier.
Well, you got hit by a damn building, basically swung into your car. It was bad. I mean, because it sent me across, because it basically when it hit me, it made my car go like that, Wow.
So I flew into a median.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, my ribs were pretty messed up, and I didn't have very good health insurance at the time, so I didn't really do anything about it. I mean, I got checked out, but that was it. And I should have gone to like a chiropractor or something, but
whatever.
I guess it is what it is. But
okay, totally different question. Have you ever owned a dog?
What?
Have you ever owned any dogs? Doggy?
No.
No
I've
dogs.
never had a dog. I love dogs. I love dogs a lot, but for me, it's just I travel a lot. A cat just makes a lot more sense. I'd like to get a dog eventually, someday when the time is right, but yeah. I used to be a pet sitter though, so.
What breed of dog would you see yourself getting?
I don't know, because it would be dependent on, what dogs need homes. I don't really, I would.
My sister is a dog rescue. She loves you forever. She hasn't even seen this interview yet. My sister loves you forever for saying that. That's beautiful.
Well, Yeah, I mean, I don't have a particular. I think that out of necessity, I would want a smaller dog because, I live in Southern California where space is not super available. You know what I mean? Like, I live in a small apartment. So, depending on where I'm at in my life, I might, prefer a smaller dog just because I want to be able to, make sure the dog has everything they need. And that might be harder for me if I had a bigger dog. So, but yeah, it totally depends on what dogs need homes and what my situation is at that point in my life. So, yeah, I mean, I there's certain types of dogs that I really like a lot. Like I like terriers a lot. I think they're just really cool. But I'm not like I wouldn't come in and it's like it has to be this type of dog. Like I wouldn't be like that. I'd be like, who needs a home?
You don't discriminate. You don't discriminate against breeds.
I don't.
That's good, man. There's nothing wrong with
that.
that.
And when it comes to cats, I will be honest. I love cats, but I will have a slight preference to black cats, and the reason for that is because, even though it's 2020, believe it or not, black cats still do face some discrimination.
Oh,
they have a harder time getting home than other cats,
right?
And there's still some kind of out there people where it's like some rescues are still hesitant to give away black cats between the months of September and November because of some, horrible things that people would do in October and get them for the wrong reason. So for that reason, I lean a little bit towards, trying to rescue black cats. But I would rescue any other cat, of course. And just, if there's a black cat that's really in need of a home, I would kind of migrate there.
Okay, so let's jump off of that. I'm trying to get you through these as quick as possible. I do organic gardening. It's obviously it's Nay's Garden. It used to be trendy as Dabbers, and now it's Nay's Garden. And I'm always trying to teach my audience about off-grid living, organic gardening. I just picked these from my garden. The last 2 days, brother. And I'm learning all kinds of wonderful recipes, and it's not just zucchinis. I've got the tomatoes, the pole beans, potatoes, and more. So much growing out there. But
make me hungry.
Well, my question is this: it involves climate change and gardening. Have you ever done any gardening yourself? Any kind of just regular vegetable gardening?
No, and it's funny because I've always been like growing up as a kid, it just wasn't really something a lot of people did. And we didn't really, we had a yard and stuff and we would grow like carrots and they would be like this big and we'd be like, oh cool, we're eating carrots from our garden. But it wasn't like really something my family did a lot. And then like growing up, it's like, I just never, I always typically lived in like cities and stuff in apartments where I never really had like a yard or anything like that. I lived in Seattle and I lived in Nashville and I lived in, Los Angeles now. And so, but it's funny, like the reason I chuckled a little bit is because where we're at right now, like Rob, I'm up in Massachusetts with my wife's family. Like everybody has a huge garden. Like we were at with one of her friends, like in their yard and had like an outdoor socially distanced pasta dinner. And, I picked the basil and the parsley straight from outside and washed it off and put it in the sauce, and that's a pretty special thing, So it's pretty cool, but it's like, we don't have a yard in Southern California. We don't have we have a little like deck type area. It's very tiny. We store our bikes there, and if we could find a way to shade it a little bit, we could probably have like a basil plant or something. Right. But that's about it, unfortunately.
How big is that area where you'd have a basil plant?
Well, I don't have. We could. It's like it's one of those. I feel weird calling it a balcony. Like it's one of those like just sort of ledges that you have, and it's like there's like a little barrier. So we put our bikes there because like our apartment's like upstairs, so like we keep our bikes out there. You know how you're always talking about municipal internet, and
And
Yeah.
and is that the kind of thing that, do you have an area around where you live that maybe the complex owns that could be turned into a vegetable garden that you guys could collectively consider doing? Like, is there a
That's a
giant?
great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm all about like community gardens and stuff like that, and there is some of that stuff in my neighborhood, and there's also, one of the things that we do is we compost in our neighborhood. Like there's a park that does our composting, so we take our compost there, and in quarantine, that's actually become an adventure. Normally, it's just something like we'll drop off when we're just doing our thing or whatever. But now it's like an event. Like my wife and I will get on our bikes. I'll have the compost on my backpack, and then we just ride our bikes. And it's because the park's like, I mean, it's not super far, but it's not, it's a decent bike ride. It's not like super close.
Right.
So it's like an adventure now. Like we're gonna do the compost today. But
It's great though.
But yeah, so we do stuff like that, and the one thing about Southern California is, I mean, every day there's a farmer's market. So, in some area, even with the pandemic. So, I'm able to get good produce, good organic produce, and it's something that we, make sure we have in the house. I mean, at one point in my life, I did a crop share and stuff like that. So it's something I'm a big advocate of, but it's not something that I've ever been in a situation to do myself.
Right.
Hey, maybe someday that'll change.
I hope it does for you. It's exciting and it's fun, and it's something that I've only recently gotten into, but I've learned quickly, and there's so many resources now with YouTube. You can learn anything that you're interested in at all. You can basically just,
It's true.
you can find out and learn on, you just get on the internet and start researching it. So, I've got a million more questions for you, Ron. I don't want to keep you forever, and I know if you got to go, brother. But
well, let's. I'll stick around till noon. How's that? So we got like 10-ish more minutes.
That's fantastic,
cool?
brother. I couldn't be happier. That's fantastic. All right, so I'm just glancing over here at the chat, and everybody just seems so happy that you're here. And let me go back here onto my my questions for you. All right, here we go. Yeah, man. I noticed, I don't know if you've seen it. Graham Elwood did an interview with Jesse Lee Peterson.
I did one too, yeah.
Fantastic! Do tell! Do tell!
Did I what?
I want to hear all about it.
I don't know. I don't know what there is to tell. I mean, I kind of, I didn't take it like seriously. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know.
I kind of.
Let me stop you right there. Have you seen the Kyle Kalinske, Jesse Lee Peterson? Have you seen that interview?
No.
Okay. The entire.
I haven't seen that one.
Look. If you watch Secular Talk ever, and he's a kid, he's pretty freaking serious about what he does, and he sits there with a very serious expression on his face, except when he's doing his little characters and stuff. Bro, when he's sitting there in that chair, he has this expression on his face the whole interview that's just like,
Okay.
and it's like,
Yeah, I mean,
it's like no one takes it seriously, Ron.
well, that was my thought. But actually, dude, according to the comments, people do.
No,
I
listen.
kind of took it
Those
tongue in
you
cheek.
don't listen to those comments. Of course, those people do.
But I just kind of got a kick out of it. I mean, I took it tongue in cheek. I kind of knew because I had done a panel with him before on Crosstalk, the show Crosstalk.
Oh, tell me about that. Tell me all about that.
I forget the topic that day. I mean, this was a couple years ago, but yeah, Jesse Lee Peterson was on the panel.
Let me pause for 1 second, just so everybody knows who doesn't know. Jesse Lee Peterson is a guy that's got a channel on YouTube, and he's a right-winger, and he's very set in his ways, and the way he speaks, he will re-ask the same question over and over again, even if you give him the same answer. He's tenacious, and some of the things he says don't even make sense, and it's comical. It's comical, and I think a lot of people do watch him and take him seriously. So this is the guy we're talking about, just so they know.
People do. I mean, I kind of took it like tongue in cheek, and he would, because I knew, I was like, okay, he's going to say something very outrageous, and you just have to just. And I was like, well, I don't agree with that premise at all, Jesse. I don't agree with that. And then we would just like move
and
on.
He would say, amazing, amazing.
Yes, he would. And I would kind of like just sort of, I would just be upfront with them. Like, he'd be like, do you smoke pot? And I'd be like, hell yeah, I do. And he'd be like, do you smoke pot? And I'd be like, yep, still do. And he'd be like, do you smoke pot? And I'm like, answer still yes, buddy. And it was, I thought it was sort of, that's what this is. Like, that's what this guy does, and that's what it is. And, but yeah, a lot of the commenters really hated me because I kind of took it to, they want somebody to get really outraged by it. They want somebody to get real offended and to walk off and kind of let him win, so to speak. That's what a lot of his viewers want. I wasn't going to do that. I'm like, I know what your formula is. I know what your gimmick is. I'm just going to be like, yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that premise. I don't see it that way at all. And we're just going to move on, and we're just going to, if you want to make a joke at my expense, I'll laugh about it too. I can laugh at myself. And I did. I totally laughed at myself. Some of his
jokes are so bad. His jokes are so, and he is there's something there. I don't know what it is. There's something disgustingly charismatic about that man, Well,
it's like, yeah, I don't know if I'd call it charismatic, but,
disgustingly charismatic.
I served him. I served him one on a silver platter because, we were, we were talking about gun control, and he was like,
that's an interesting topic.
I bet you're not a gun owner. And I said to him, actually, I am. Because I am, but, well, here's the thing. Here's where I really let him have one. And I'm like, Jesse, you're going to have a ball with this, and I'm going to let you have this one. I was like, here's how I'm a gun owner. And this is true. My grandfather, before when he died, he died when I was 10 years old or 11 years old. He left me a gun in his will. That was what he left. He was a hunter, and he left me a gun. So I technically own a gun, but I have never seen it. I have never used it. It just sits in my parents' attic.
And at that point, did he ask you if you were a real man? And then did he say only a real man has ever fired a gun? Is that what he said to you? And
I have fired a gun before. Like a friend of mine took me shooting once, and I fired a gun at a target, and I missed the target completely, but I have fired a gun before. And but yeah, so I told him that story, and I'm like, Jesse, just have fun. You're gonna enjoy this. And I told him, and he just goes, Beto! And I'm like, dude, I can laugh at myself, I can laugh at myself too. I mean, hey, if you come see my stand-up act, I make fun of myself for a while. You gotta, if you're gonna make fun of the world, you gotta be able to make fun of yourself too. So I'm certainly, not above making fun of myself. I make fun of myself all the time. But yeah, some of his audience appreciated it, but a lot of them didn't. They didn't like the fact that I was laughing at myself. It's almost like I didn't let him win, and they were really offended by that.
Sure. Yeah,
But he had fun. I mean, he had fun. And he was like, dude, that was fun. Like when the cameras were off or whatever, he was just like, dude, that was fun. And he actually said, he was like, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know.
Right.
Which I was kind of thinking, I was like, I don't know what you could, given your brand, I don't know what opportunities would exist there, but that's a very nice thing to say. Thank you.
Right.
So
he was polite.
Yeah.
I heard from Graham. I heard from Graham that he was very polite off camera.
Yeah, he's very polite. His staff is very polite. It was totally fine. I mean, I had gotten, I needed to use the restroom really bad. When I was walking there, I needed, and I was just like, I just gotta stop somewhere. So I stopped in this restaurant and I like just bought a soda. So I'm like, look, I'll be honest with you, I just really need to use the restroom. I'm totally gonna buy something, but can I use, like, I'll buy a soda, just can I use, and they're like, yeah, if you're gonna buy something, go ahead. So I used the restroom, I bought a soda, and then but I didn't want it. So I just gave it to the receptionist when I got there. Like, I was just like, do you like soda? And she was like, sure. And I was like, do you want one? And she was like, okay. And I'm like, I haven't opened it. I had to use the restroom. I bought this. And she's like, well, now I don't have to get one for lunch today. Thank you so much. Yeah, so everybody's very polite.
Nice. Yep.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience.
So Jesse Lee Peterson is, I imagine him as two different people because he is so rude to his guests that he plays almost like a persona when he's on camera.
It's definitely a persona. I mean, you know, how sincere or insincere it is, I have no clue. I mean, I couldn't tell you that. I'm not inside the guy's head.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a character of sorts. And
let me ask you a question.
I went in there.
I'm sorry. Sure. I'm going to cut you. Does Sean Hannity believe himself, do you think?
I think that all of them, to some extent, yeah, they're all playing characters. I mean, I can tell you, this isn't my story.
They realize that these characters that they're playing to enrich themselves is resulting in people dying, right? They're literally...
I guess they don't care.
Right.
I had a friend who was on a panel with Ann Coulter. And, you know, this is his story, not mine, but they were really getting into it on camera. Like, they were really... And she goes, I can't even sit beside you. I cannot even be beside you. The things you're saying. When we get back from break, I'm not even going to be beside you anymore. So the cameras go off, and she just goes like, oh, so how was your weekend? You know, and they're just making small talk, and it's all just fun and games. And then when they're about to go live again, he goes to her, he goes, so are you going to switch seats? And she goes, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, before the break, you were saying how I was offending you so much and you couldn't sit beside me anymore. And she's like, oh, yeah, I guess I should do that. Like it was like an act, basically. Right. You know what I mean? Like it was an act. So, yeah.
Why can't people...
Where are we living, man?
Why can't people be passionate about things and find jobs in their lives that don't hurt people, Ron? You know, like comedy and music or podcasting or... You know, there's so many things, you know, be a doctor, that you're helping people instead of being like somebody who hurts people. You know, I'm just going to be someone who puts people down for a living or just for my job. All I'm going to do is I'm going to get out there and support somebody who is a blatant harmer. He hurts people. And I'm going to say that that's okay. And I'm going to turn away and I'm not even going to talk about the bad things he says. God, it's so disgusting, man. That whole charade that they play.
I feel you. I mean, yeah, I don't understand when you're coming from a place of like, you know, exclusion and what have you. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't appeal to me either. Right. You know.
Well, Ron, thank you so much for doing this for me and for doing it for my audience. I really hope we get some more people that watch this in the future to come over and check out Ron Placone. Get your news on with Ron on YouTube. Check him out. Also, guest appearing on the Jimmy Dore Show. We've learned so much about you today, Ron, and I've just really enjoyed myself. And I hope you had a good time in the garden as well.
Yeah, this was a blast, man. And thanks again. We said that we were going to mention this. I'm kind of off the grid right now on the coast in Massachusetts, and I've been getting a lot of bug bites. So I've been using your oil on my bites. And it's been helping a good bit. So thank you again for the oil. I use it all the time, man. So and I plug it on the show. So I appreciate those care packages, and I hope that it has exposed more people to the oil because I do plug it every day.
When are you going back to California?
End of the month, I'll be back. Barring nothing crazy, but yeah, end of the month I'll be back.
Something nice. I'm sure there'll be something nice there for you.
That week.
Something nice there waiting for you.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
You're welcome, brother. All right. Will you be safe buddy. And you take care? Absolutely, man. And you're welcome back here anytime, man. We love to have you anytime. Even if you just, you want to blow off some steam and scream with me, let me know, man, because it's what I do.
You got it, man.
All right.
Yeah, we'll definitely do this again. And
All
yeah,
right.
it was cool to finally connect with you. And yeah, be well. Take care.
Okay.
Thanks for
Thank
everything
you,
you do. I
Ron.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Cheers, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Peace.
So that was Ron Placone. That was just so much fun, and he is such a neat guy. And you know what? I know so much more about him now, man. It's like I'm like, wow, he's way even cooler. What did you say, Levi? Did you say dope? Yeah, it was fucking dope, wasn't it? He's way even cooler, man, than I knew, man. So for those of you who don't know, Ron Placone is also on the Jimmy Dore Show. He is Get Your News On with Ron. He does thank you, honey. He does a a duo with Graham Elwood. You should check out Graham as well. And check out their Zoom on Saturdays. And this is how you find it. Okay. Follow Graham Elwood and follow at Ron Placone. Follow them both on Twitter. And on Saturdays at some point, one of them will post a link. You're going to want to get Venmo on your cell phone, which is like a PayPal thing. And you're going to PayPal $5 to Graham. And that gets you into a 2-hour stand-up show where you can pull up your camera and they can literally see and hear you while they're doing their stand-up. It is a lot of fun. You guys should really check that out. Yeah, and these guys, and they work together, and they the show together is really worth a lot more than $5. So go check that out on Saturdays, 7 p.m. Find out about it from their Twitter, and I believe Graham puts that up on his Instagram too, which is Graham Elwood at Instagram, to find that show. Okay, guys. That's a long show, huh? 2 hours. All right. I hope you all had fun, man. I will see you guys on the next one, right? Thanks for watching. Remember, no law regarding cannabis. And if you want to learn how to grow like this, and do it organically, and do it with very little effort, you can learn all of my grow techniques by going to naysgarden.com. Click on the link at the top of the page. It says grow 4 pounds. It's all free information. It's just a few paragraphs there to tell you exactly how I achieve everything that you see right here, and how I get zucchinis every day like this, nonstop, all grow season, and maybe longer with the grow house out there. Mary Smith, you're welcome. That's it, guys. I hope you had fun. Big thank you to Ron Placone for coming out and doing the show. And thank you guys, the audience members, for coming out and viewing it live. And thank you for everyone in the future that watches this. I hope you guys get something out of it too. I got a lot out of this show, and I hope you guys get something out of it too. All right. Thank you so much. Take care of yourselves. Love you all so much. Thanks, Iceman. All right. Hey. Ice pulled the ice card on me. What can I say? Ice pulled the ice card on me. Did you guys like the fact that Ron didn't mind me smoking cannabis while we were doing the interview? You guys notice that? It was kind of fun, wasn't it? I wanted to make sure everybody could see Billy's brain back there during that whole interview. I wanted Billy's brain in the shot. I wanted to use it during the. I almost did, man. I was going to ask it. I was going to say, computer, who is Jesse Lee Peterson?
According to Wikipedia, Jesse Lee Peterson is an American political figure, commentator, religious minister, and author, having hosted a number of political radio and TV shows, including The Jesse Lee Peterson Show and The Fallen State TV. He is also the president of the Brotherhood Organization of the New Destiny since 1991. Politically, he describes himself as conservative.
Computer, thank you.
Of course. Happy Friday, Ben.
So, Ice card is in use in full effect. No law regarding cannabis. Cannabisism, tism for all. Cheers, everybody. Cheers, Iceman. Everybody here can thank my best friend, Iceman, for keeping the show going for you to smoke with me. It's Iceman. He knew it. He knew it. He pulled that card on. You guys all owe Iceman a thank you. If you guys appreciate Iceman for keeping the show going, press number 1. Let's see how many number 1s we can get. All right. 1 per person, please. Cheers. We're still here. Who wants to know how my battery held up overnight? My single battery. Anybody? Anybody want to know how my battery did since I disconnected the other one? That line going straight across and now climbing, the one that's now climbing, yeah, that's how low it got right there. That's how low it got. Look at the numbers. It's fucking above 90. That's how low it got last night. My battery went down to 92% last night. My single battery, with my air conditioning's running, with the jacuzzi on. Oh, and Mark was using the jacuzzi last night. Mark was down there using the jacuzzi, running it. Right? Computer left on all night, TV set left on all night, all these monitors left on all night. Refrigerator, mini fridge, space heater in the heating cabinet, all on all night. My battery only used 8% of its power. That means if I didn't have sun, I'd be able to go 8 days full power and not even hit my fucking generator. And if I wanted to go more than 8 days, I could shut off my mini fridges and my space heater and the ACs and the TV and the computer and the monitors and all that shit. Doesn't need to be running unless I need to use it. And my batteries would last a super long time. Then I got a 21K 21,000 watt generator on propane hooked up to a 250 gallon propane tank. So even if after 20 days I could probably go 20, maybe a month, and still have power, then I got my generator that I don't know how long that could run me for. I don't even know. I haven't gone that far. And that's only if we're not getting sun. If we're getting sun, hun, then our power shall run. And we're almost always get sun. And even when it's cloudy, my panels are still getting loudy and rowdy. Because I don't know howdy, but for some reason they're still getting, 1/3, freaking collecting 1/3 power or something like that when it's cloudy. So it's just getting tweaked. I'm learning things about it. I'm watching. I got my eye on this graph. If I have a drop off in my power, I'll see it and I'll know to go out there and check. My batteries are, bro, it's not even 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't even start getting sun hitting those panels until 11:30. Really, I mean, there's a little bit of sun, but not really. They're just little spots. It's more like ambient light. My batteries are going to be charged before I even hit full sunlight. My batteries are charging. Look. See that line going up towards 100 right there? Focus. Why won't you focus? I don't know why it won't focus. Man, it won't focus. But anyway, unreal. Here, let me zoom in on it. There we go. Hopefully. Look at that. See that line going up towards 100? There's 80. That yellow line right there going up. That's my batteries charging. It's not really a yellow line. It's really green. So I'm at... Oh, it'll tell me right here. Yeah, my battery right there. 94% charge on the battery. Here. 94% charge on the battery. And it's going up. Dude. Cameras don't focus anymore, pal. Unreal. Unreal, pal. Nobody even does that anymore, pal. Unreal. So as long as I'm running... Now, are you ready for this? Are you guys ready for this? That's one battery. I got two. So I said I could run like a month with no sun on the one battery. I'm going to run 2 fucking months on 2 batteries. So you get them fucking doomsday preppers to come up here to yonder. And let's talk about my water, power, food, and security situation. And let me see how I score on that thing. Let's find out. I think I'm going to hit it out of the park. I'm going to hit it out of the park with the goddamn. Is what I'm saying. I'm going to hit out the goddamn park with the goddams. Enoch, yeah, me on, they had me on television. You guys, they found a video of me screaming at the top of my lungs, and they played a couple seconds of it, and they started making fun of me on a local television station in Orlando, Florida, man. It was actually pretty cool. Yeah, and Enoch found the video. That's cool, bro. Fox 65, The Q. How did you find that, Enoch? Oh my God, bro. Yeah, I was on the television, man. My 15 seconds of fame. It's on my YouTube channel. Fox 65 The Q. It's on my YouTube channel. I could find it. I could find that for you. Here, YouTube. Fox 65 The Q. What do you have to do? Where's my channel? It's not loading. There it goes. Unreal. 65. My channel. My videos, my channel, my videos, my channel. My channel. Videos. Search. Type in the Q. Hit enter. And see what comes up. There it is. I got it. Hold on, I'll be right back, guys. I'll be right back. I'm squirming in my seat. I gotta go back here.
Hello, Training Day reporting in.
I'm David Martin. You know the headlines, but now it's time for the fun stuff you haven't seen behind those stories. With me tonight, producer of The Key, Art Miles. And host of Mornings with Jade on Hot 101.5 and voted best radio personality in Tampa Bay, Jade Donovan.
What are you looking me up on Wikipedia?
Welcome, both of you.
Thank you very much.
Hey, in the show tonight, we're going to have fun with soccer, Trader Joe's, and medical marijuana, among other topics. Sound good to you all?
Sounds good.
Let's get started. Morgan's Medical Maui Wowie. Thanks to Orlando attorney and celebrity John Morgan.
God already figured it out when he put this plant on this earth for us.
For us and
The people.
medicinal cannabis is on the ballot in November. It needs 60% of the vote to pass, and most polls have it smoking right through. Right now, 20 states are easing the pain with pot, and 13 others, including us, are thinking about lighting up. So what would life be like in Florida with...
Okay, so what would life be like in Florida? Let's see if we can get this on here for you guys. You can see what they're showing. Okay. Okay, there we go. All right, here it is.
Florida with legal weed.
It'd be a state of emergency. All of the convenience stores would be out of Cheetos, Funyuns. Where do we get our snacks?
Let's keep the first word tonight from Duncan Trust at the Laugh Factory.
The thing I like best about medicinal marijuana, aside from the fact that it allows me to communicate with God, is that they put it in the same kind of bottles they put penicillin because they want to convince you it's a medicine, so they put it in these amber-colored bottles with a bud of weed jammed into it. And this really serious warning at the top that says, this is intended for medicinal use only. Contains 25 milligrams of pure THC. Should only be prescribed by an authorized physician. And underneath that label, in a font made out of lightning bolts, is the name of the pot, Train Wreck.
So who might win or lose if pot comes to Florida? Let's get angry.
This list of diseases is everything. I'm so about it. It's that's all I gotta say.
That guy could use some weed.
How YouTube channel legalized everywhere. He's ticked off the medical cannabis restrictions in Illinois. Why do some diseases allow you to get a green card, a weed card, not a green card?
That's why it's called the green card.
It
Right? It
is,
makes
but-
perfect sense.
And why do some diseases not allow you to get it?
If cannabis treats these diseases in Illinois, isn't it good for everything else too?
One thing it does not cover is anger.
The point is, Art, it's selective. Who's making that list, right? And in Florida, would there be similar restrictions? Most likely. We Skyped with Radical Russ on this topic. He's the host of 420 Radio out of pot-friendly Portland. Here's his list of winners if medical marijuana passes in November.
Florida's economy could benefit greatly from not just the growing and selling of medical cannabis, but there's all the ancillary jobs and industries from greenhouse suppliers to glass blowers. And Plus, Florida would save money from not arresting, jailing, and prosecuting sick people that they happen to catch with their herbal medicine.
I see your blown glass, Jade. It's
Thank you.
not that great. Do you two agree about this thing passing in November?
Absolutely. It's already trending in that direction, right? And why not? If you've seen someone suffer from cancer and the nausea that comes with that, if they are dying of cancer, just give it to them.
Good point, Art.
And if anyone is interested, if you are taking medical marijuana, I am selling Girl Scout cookies in the back office. $4 a box this year, and it's a good combo.
But not so fast. Speaking of youth, Art, the Coalition for a Drug-Free America says there are losers if medical marijuana passes. The youth. Among kids ages 12 to 17, pot use is higher in states with medical marijuana laws compared with those states without such laws, to which our friend Radical Russ responds,
This is a red herring argument that's offered by the opposition to try to scare people by threatening their children. In fact, regulating marijuana protects their children by actually asking the kids for ID and putting marijuana behind adults-only stores where you have to be 21 to get it.
and we found this on hemp.org. Illinois might take your gun away if you want medical pot. That would never fly in Florida. Don't make me choose.
No, you can't. You're supposed to choose. What if you have cancer and you want a weapon and you want your marijuana?
Marijuana first? No guns for you. That's Illinois.
choice right there.
Let's talk about something that'll coming much sooner.
That was interesting, huh? That was me on TV. I guess it was, about 15 seconds of fame. Yeah, the disrespect, call it cannabis. I know, they don't know any better. We're making it a way of life, and everybody could if they understood it more. You heard what Ron said, how it's helping him. And you know what Ron said to me before we went live? He said, you know that your oil has helped me better than any other thing that I've tried? And I was like, we got to go live, bro. I got to talk to Ron before the show, man. Do you know what I told him? I said, bro, it's such an honor to have you, and I'm so glad that you're here. And I just got to say, I watch you all the time, and I just want to hoard you here before we go live. I got so many things I want to ask you. We had fun, man. We talked for a minute or two, and then we went live. I said, do you mind if I use just like I asked Graham, do you mind if I use cannabis while we're doing the show? I was like, and you're more than welcome to as well. He says it's a little early for me. I was like, right on, because I know he smokes, man. Jimmy smokes, he smokes. It's fun, that I could sit here and smoke while we're doing it and calm myself down while we're doing the interview. It helps a lot. All right, you guys, I'm gonna go eat. You guys all owe Iceman a big thank you. You guys take care. Bye-bye. You got you 23 more minutes. Later, brother. Thanks, Enoch. I'll see you guys this afternoon.